I am very excited about our guest today. Today, we have the creative director at Titmouse. Titmouse is an award-winning animation company. They are behind some of the cartoons like Legend of Vox Machina, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Love, Death, and Robots, Scavenger's Reign, Metalocalypse, Beavis and Butthead, Ballmasters, King Star King, Nerdland, and those are just the cartoons that we've had and talked about on this podcast. He's directed animated shorts and trailers for video games, some of them Apex Legends, Mass Effect, Clash of Clans, and he's also created a game for KFC, which is now on Steam. He's created a tabletop fantasy role drinking game called Drunkards, Druggies, and Delinquents that we fortunately got a chance to play, and I can't wait to talk about all of that stuff. Today on our podcast, Alexei Shay. What's up?
Woo! Hello. Glad to be here. How are you doing after that monologue?
I'm okay. I rarely do monologues, but I feel like I hit it all, you know. I've done a lot of research on you for the past 2 days, so I know everything about you, all your background. How does that make you feel?
It's very exciting to know. Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm glad I deleted my Twitter account years ago and saved you the trouble of digging through that pile of mess.
Do you have anything dirty on there that you had to get rid of before you started your professional career?
Gosh, no. Early in my professional career, I did a lot of stuff that involved social media, and so I got really good at growing a following for myself. So I had a pretty decent Twitter following. And I definitely said some stuff that I now would feel less comfortable saying out loud.
Say all of that stuff on this podcast. Yeah. You need to say all of that today.
Yeah. Trust me, I will. We're going to get political. We're going to talk about, is God real? We're going to get to the bottom of it here today.
Good. Hey, so Alexei, you're the creative director at Titmouse. I would love to hear what a creative director is.
Sure. So a creative director is there to lend guidance and input and leadership in any creative matter that is needed. In the case of a TV studio, we make a lot of different TV shows, and we want them all to look unique and different and true to the material that is being presented. And so we do a lot of creative exploration early on to find the look and feel of any individual TV show or movie or commercial. We do those things as well. So as a creative director, I jump in when projects are young, and I help guide them into the full creative team and vision that they'll eventually be as they go into production. So I work on a lot of what we call development, which is exactly what it sounds like, which is developing something from just an idea into a full TV show. Generally, I bounce once it becomes a TV show. I move back into developing new things, and a team comes together that has a supervising director and art directors and character designers and background painters, and all those people go on for the next 2 years to make that show. But I get to be there at the beginning to help kind of sort out what it could be, because it could be anything.
When you're developing, are you actively searching for a type of show, or is your email box just filled with a bunch of people trying to pitch to you?
Both of those things are true. My email box is definitely filled with a bunch of people trying to pitch things to me, and I am also looking for specific things that I know I want to see on TV under a Titmouse banner. So, it's Hollywood, it's TV, it's the entertainment industry. We have an agency that represents us. They introduce us to people. I know a lot of managers and agents who introduce their people to us. Creators, independent creators who I've worked with on other projects or who know Titmouse, who have seen one of our things and waited to watch the credits. They reach out to us with ideas of their own. And then I see something, I read a comic book or I see a video online, and I reach out to people and say, have you thought about a TV show or a movie based on that? So it goes in both directions.
That's really cool stuff. So do you, as a creative director, do you touch everything that goes through Titmouse? Do you have some type of say? Or?
Yeah, luckily no, because that's too many things.
Right.
There's another creative director named Simone, and then we have a chief creative officer named Antonio, and generally the things are split up between us, depending on the type of project that they are, the particular needs of that project. Some things come into Titmouse also with a lot of interesting creative already attached to them, and they don't really need someone like me to come in and add more voices. Really, it's about where the need is. And so certainly not everything. Everything that we develop is under my kind of purview. So in that case, everything that we develop, I definitely have some point of view on and I touch. But things that we're hired to do by other people might not necessarily cross my desk. Some of them do and some don't.
Do you ever grab something that is already a complete package, a finished cartoon I mean, I'm seeing a lot of independent animations online that are blowing up that, I mean, sure, sometimes they have big production companies behind them, but some don't. So do you ever see some of these things that are a little bit under the radar and reach out to them and figure for some reason that you want to tie yourself into it?
Yeah, for sure. I go to a lot of film festivals and then I'm online and a lot as well. So in both of those cases, I might be exposed to a short piece of animation and want to be involved in some way. I always want to protect, I want to lift up and support and help cool films and filmmakers. I also want to protect them from people like me. Yeah. And I want to make
there's a lot of snakes out there. Are there?
Did you just call him a snake?
That there's a lot of
not him. Not him.
There's a lot of voices out there who have opinions. I certainly have a lot of opinions of my own, and I try and not just add noise and clutter to something that's a creative that I love. Right? It's like you have those dreams of like, oh, I've seen. I've played the video game and I'd love to be involved in making the show of it, right? And then you're like, actually, this thing probably should just always be a video game. It's a beautiful video game. It doesn't need to be a show, right? Or you could apply that logic to a book or a comic book or a song, anything like that, where you're like, ooh, but if I got my hands on it, I would turn it into something amazing, right? And sometimes your instinct is correct that you would. And sometimes your instinct is, just that voice in your head that tells you that you should do everything. And so if I see something cool online, I want to make sure that if I'm going to reach out to someone and get involved, that can really help and that Titmouse can really help. Because making TV is complicated and not everything should be TV. But if I see something that we can really contribute to, I'm always eager to do that.
So speaking of things that you like, I feel like Titmouse has worked with so many different networks, and you've worked on so many shows. There's Paramount, Netflix, Adult Swim, and then there's this crazy assortment of shows you've worked on. Do you have favorites?
Sure. I think most recently the thing that I keep going back to is we did a Love, Death, Robots episode called How Zeke Got Religion. And it's just so fucking cool.
It's really cool.
I'm like obsessed with that. And the art director on that, this dude named Gigi Cavanago, just awesome art. And truly obsessed with that. And that's one where, Gigi had been on our radar for a while as an artist that we admired. And a project came through that we got a chance to potentially be a part of. Love, Death, and Robots is an anthology, and it's all these different studios contribute different films, but it's all run by a kind of centralized production company called Blur, and its founder, Tim Miller. And so it's not a guarantee that you're going to get to make one every season. It's not, it's collaborative in a really interesting way. And so when we heard about that particular episode as a concept, we had this artist in mind, just seeing his work, seeing his comic books, seeing his work on Instagram and online, and being like, we should reach out to this guy and see, like, would he work for this, and would he be interested in doing something like this? And the result was awesome. But that's a recent big favorite of mine. Also going back into the earliest days, perhaps, of shows that weren't necessarily Titmouse shows, but were shows Titmouse contributed to. This show, Superjail, is just an amazing show that I was really obsessed with before I really even knew what Titmouse was, before I ever had an inkling that I would work in animation. I think at that moment in my life, I wasn't working in animation. I just thought Superjail was just a really cool show. I think about that show a lot.
Christy Caracas did some of the art on DD&D, right?
He sure did. I've gotten to meet and know Christy. Christy's done art for a pitch that I'm taking out right now. The art's amazing. Christy is super fun, extremely talented, and kind of crazy guy in the best way.
Nice. I'd imagine so.
From looking at his drawings.
Yeah, right.
Really weird and wild guy, and I've gotten to hang out with him. It's been awesome.
That's cool. So I want to hear a little bit about your background before Titmouse. Sure. You kind of mentioned that you weren't always in animation. Did you kind of fall into this position, or did you what happened?
I fell into a position a few positions ago, let's say. I have an English degree. I went to college and I studied English.
Really? Okay.
When I was a teenager, I was really into computers. I was really into the internet. It was the early days of stealing cartoons online. I was really into anime, and I used to live in these like early chat rooms, this platform called IRC, that I don't know if it exists anymore, but where I used to trade fan subbed anime. That was like a big thing I was into. And I was into making websites around video games and anime and all that stuff. And I thought, like, well, I really like computers. It didn't connect in my mind that I liked computers as the access to cartoons and video games, right? It was like, oh, I'm on the computer a lot, or at least like maybe that's how like my mom framed it. It was like, you're always on the computer. And so it was like, okay, it's time to go to college. And I came from a family where that was like, okay, you go to college now. And so it's like, okay, well, I'll go to college for computers. And then I got there and they were like, okay, here's the curriculum. And it's all this math. And I was like, I don't like math. Like, yeah, I like, right? Yeah, I hate that. So I was like, well, what's the opposite of math? Well, it's reading books. I like to read too. I also I read a lot of novels, and I was like, can I go to school for reading novels? And someone was like, well, kind of, And so that's what I did. So then I went to school for reading novels, which people will tell you like an English degree is kind of a waste of your time if you don't want to be a teacher or whatever. And that's probably true, because I read a lot of novels and I was kind of done really quick. And then I was like, well, I'll take some film classes, and I was taking film classes. And then I finished college and I was like, well, I just want to go to LA and like see what that's all about. And so I did a bunch of things in LA. I mean, I waited tables, like that sort of did a bunch of things. But eventually, off of that old love of computers, I ended up working at Disney Interactive, helping them remake Disney.com. These corporations, they have these huge websites. And every once in a while, they just get an itch and they're just like, we got to do this over again, right?
Yeah.
And so I, at some moment, ended up working at Disney when they were going to redo Disney.com. And once I finished helping them redo Disney.com as a website, I had made friends there, and they were like, well, this website needs like content, it needs stuff. And so, are you into that? Would you want to be involved in that? So I started working for Disney.com, not building a website, but then like filling a website with articles and videos. And I became a kind of like pop culture journalist type of person working at Disney, helping them just like do these marketing campaigns. They're kind of like ad campaigns where we just like make articles up about Disney and then sell sponsorship of those articles to Disney corporate partners, like milk, right? And so it'd be like, Disney did this weird thing where they got really into Facebook really early on. And so every single Disney character that existed had a Facebook page. And since they were really early on, the whole world got onto Facebook, and it was like, well, what do you like? And it was like, I guess I like The Little Mermaid, right? So I was like, sure, well then like Ariel and like Ursula and like, the movie itself. And then while you're there, maybe you like Belle and Beauty and the Beast. And then while you're there, maybe you like Jack Sparrow and Pirates of the Caribbean. And so they had this huge, huge audience on Facebook. So we would just like feed them like Disney red meat, and then millions and millions of people would come to Disney.com, and then we would show them ads for like milk. And so I had gone from doing nothing into being on this like kind of internal ad agency at Disney, where I was in digital marketing. One day they were like, hey, you're in digital marketing. It's like, cool, I guess. And so from there, I kind of got bored, and I had a friend at this animation studio called PsyOp, and PsyOp did commercial animation. So literally made commercials, cartoon commercials. And they were like, hey, we're going to be an animation studio that makes TV and movies. So we want to hire some people from Disney to get them over here to help us like figure this aspect of it out. So I left Disney, I went to PsyOp, and it turned out that making TV and movies is way different than making commercials. And so they were like, well, shit, we're probably not going to make any TV or movies here. But I liked them, and I was having fun there. And so they were like, help us with these commercials. So then I started pitching commercials and writing concepts for commercials. And then I started directing commercials. And then I was a commercial director. And then PsyOp was just a really cool creative company. And so as a creative company, kind of similar to Titmouse, people would bring them opportunities that like, hey, I have this creative thing and I don't know what to do. And one of those was the ad agency that represented KFC. And they were like, we got this weird idea. We wanted to make like one of those Japanese dating video games, but like about Colonel Sanders. Like, do you guys know anything about this stuff? And I was like, oh, well, since I was a teenager trading anime bootlegs, I've always loved anime, and I've always loved video games. And I was like, oh, this is kind of this like weird full circle moment where all of a sudden I had kind of ping ponged through all these different jobs. And then the job that 13-year-old me was like ready for the whole time arrived. And so I was like, I want to do this job. So I pitched and won the job. And then I made this strange video game where you go into a kind of anime tropey sitcom world, and you go to cooking school and you fall in love with Colonel Sanders, and you do everything you can to impress him so that he'll fall back in love with you. And that was the
such
game.
A wild game.
It's one of the funniest concepts, and it looks great too. I saw the trailer of it is pure anime. It just looks it's
even the playthrough. I haven't actually played the game, but I saw some of the playthrough, and it's crazy. So who was writing all that information? Were you writing the game?
That was me.
You wrote all of it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is some creative stuff in there. I want to ask you. We're fans of anime too. Do you what's some of the inspiration on that? What are some of your favorite animes even?
Yeah. I mean, that one has some pretty specific, like, that's just like this kind of a little bit of like the harem genre, right? You're like Ouran Host Club. My Love Story is one that was a reference for it. And that too, I wrote the game. It came from an ad agency. They certainly had ideas. They were cool people. They had references of their own and ideas for jokes and stuff like that. So I had help. I, literally wrote the game. But it wasn't like I went into a room, closed the door, and came out with the game. I wrote it. I wrote drafts. I would send it to people. They would pitch ideas, and we'd sit in a room and fuck around with it. But I am just a bit of an omnivore in terms of like genre and show and flavor. And so for me, it was just like I smashed everything I liked into it.
Yeah.
And so I remember there's an anime that I was really into when I was younger. And a part of this goes back to what I was talking about with these chat rooms is that in this moment in the internet, the way that you got anime was directly from another person. So I would leave my computer on 24 hours, and I had a section of my hard drive that had my anime collection on it. And I would give specific people access to those files. And I treated my own...
That sounds dangerous, man. That sounds very dangerous.
I built a little FTP server based off of my computer. And so the more anime you gave to people, you like earned credits, and then you could use those credits to get anime from other people.
Oh, cool.
So it was just this like straight trading of like, I have this, but I want this. So I have Naruto for you, and I'm going to trade you for some Inuyasha or Fruits Baskets, or like, those are like 3 that I remember one season.
Are you giving the entire show, or like, is it just one episode at a time?
So this is pre Crunchyroll or pre any kind of like organized dubbing or subbing and simulcasting and all that stuff. So someone in Japan would record the show from their TV, and then they would put the raw file up online, and different little clubs of people would download them and race to subtitle them the fastest, and then gain a following.
That's crazy.
And so you have like you were on like a subtitling team, and eventually I would go to college and I would take Japanese to like further that, but I never stuck with it. But that's kind of who the people were.
A little? Can you
nothing I would say out
bit?
loud. Nothing I would say out loud. Right. Too shameful. So that meant I needed to have like a collection worthy of trading. So I wouldn't just download the stuff I wanted to watch. I would download everything that was available. And then I had a lot of time. So then I would watch everything. So I would watch stuff that maybe wasn't for me, right? It wasn't like, the pink shows versus the blue shows, right? It wasn't like, well, I like shonen, so I only watch shows with fighting. It was like, well, I've got all of these romantic shows or these sports shows or these slice of life shows. I'll watch them all. And one of the shows that I discovered at that time was called Cooking Master Boy. And Cooking Master Boy is about this boy who rises through the ranks of Chinese cooking during a specific historical period in China. It's not a contemporary time. It's in the past. And eventually he runs afoul of like some triad, like gangsters and like magic using type people. And he has to just keep cooking. And so the shows, blend technique of cooking in with this like huge drama.
Hold on. Is that Food Wars or is that something different?
Food Wars is different. Food Wars is many years later.
Okay.
Food Wars is about it. So actually Food Wars came out around the same time as the KFC game. So I didn't watch it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't want
check
to
that out. It's actually really good.
And by the way, for anyone listening, I think
I watched it afterwards.
Okay, all right. But for anyone listening, yes. I think we've talked about this game many times and haven't said the name of it. It's I Love You, Colonel Sanders, right?
Yes. I Love You, Colonel Sanders, a finger-licking good dating simulator.
Okay. And I mean, I
haven't go check that out on Steam. It's on Steam, right?
Yeah. It's free. Yeah, it's on Steam for free.
Very cool.
And yeah, I think like 1 million people have played that game, which is kind of crazy.
It's insane.
But yeah, so Cooking Master Boy is definitely an early one that I highly recommend to anybody who likes like competition shows, because that's essentially what it is. But it's also a cooking show. And Food Wars I watched after I finished. And the other big inspiration on the KFC was Iron Chef. I was a huge fan of Iron Chef. And the old dubs that used to be on TV before they came back and remade it all. Well, the remakes were cool too. But I liked the dubs a lot. I watched a lot of those when I was a teenager. So yeah, those were big influences. And then, romantic shows, but also slice of life shows, school shows, all those type of things. I just threw it all in a pot and stirred it up. So anyhow, I made that thing, and that kind of made me into a little bit of like, oh, now as a person with like a brand, and I wasn't just like this commercial director who would do anything. I was like a person who did games and anime and had this point of view. And so since then, I went on to do more games like that. I did a dating sim for the Dead by Daylight franchise called Hooked on You, which is very much like they called and said, "Did you make the KFC thing?" And I was like, "Yes." They're like, "We want one of those." And I was like, "Cool." And
I could do it again. Yeah, let me do it again.
And then while I was working at Titmouse, I was also directing animation. That's that Apex Legends stuff and Mass Effect stuff you referenced earlier. Those are like CG trailers for video games.
Which, by the way, those are one of was it Gridiron? I think that's like a 10-minute long thing. It's epic.
Yeah, it has like a full storyline. Like I don't think trailer when I see that. It's
You say when you say trailer, I feel like it could be in Love, Death and Robots too.
Sure,
so
sure.
It's kind of wild.
It certainly could. It was essentially that style, right? Or a secret level or whatever. That was really a really cool opportunity. Working with the Apex Legends team and EA, who is their publisher, they, at that moment in time, it seems like this, I haven't worked with them in years. It seems like that this initiative has kind of waned a bit, but they used to really want to keep the story of those games alive. You know, a game like that is like a competitive shooter, so it's not a game that's necessarily about the story. You play as these hero characters, and all the heroes have these like elaborate backstories and history together. But if you look too closely at any of it, it's not, it doesn't really connect, right? Like all of the stories in those type of hero games, back to like, Overwatch or League of Legends also, different companies, not just an Apex thing, they don't really know what the big story is, right? Like, okay,
that's
a story.
That's interesting
about
to hear.
A tournament, yeah.
So they don't even know, or do they know and they're just not touching on it all? Because you can't touch on it all.
So games are made by groups of people, right? And so it's really hard to have a single story that comes from a group of people when that group of people is constantly in flux, and the story is not necessary for the game itself, right? Like you never just play the story, so there's never that driving force to figure out exactly what the story is and all agree on it, right? So they have lots of stories, and those stories exist, and they've written a lot of stories, and every character has stories associated with them, but every story exists in its own little bubble. And when you write for money, versus passion, you have to do what you're being paid to do.
Right.
So someone paid me to sit down and think about, attending school with Colonel Sanders, right? So that's why that story exists. And
I got to pause you there because
please.
The amount of creativity that went into some of the things that are being said in that game does not seem like you were forced to do anything at all. So I would love to, do you just bury yourself into that project, no matter what client is coming at you?
I love stuff, right? Like, as dumb as a statement that is, I love stuff. A chance to play around with a weird idea like that. Like, the idea was the ad agency that represented KFC at the time. Like, the idea that like they had seen these dating sims growing in popularity, and there was that one called Dream Daddy, which was kind of like this ironic version of it that was all dads, and it was like kind of edgy because it was like they're dads, but it wasn't like really legit. It was kind of a little phony. And I like story-based games. I like visual novels. I had made a visual novel before that. So I had thought a lot about how those games work and how those stories are built. And basically the KFC people, their idea was, it's school, there's romance, and here's a document of facts about Colonel Sanders that maybe will inspire you. And that was kind of it. And so I just like pitched them like a very like meta trope filled story. I was like, okay, so it's a school. So you have a school rival, right? And like we all like, you know, rivals who are kooky and weird, or like a Team Rocket, right? So you don't just have one rival, right? You have a Team Rocket rival. And so, and it's school, right? So you have a best friend, you know, and in any good story, everyone is actually in an arc, right? And you're maybe seeing the protagonist arc, but everybody's got an arc. And so, you know, your best friend, what's their arc, right? It's like, well, she's having a crisis of faith, right? So we'll put that away. And, you know, it's school. So isn't everyone kind of having a crisis of faith, right? Like, so, okay, so we have those pieces together. And then it's like, okay, and we want to be weird. So, like, what other fun stuff can we do? Because this world has no rules. I don't know. Your professor is a dog. And maybe they were like, could the professor be a dog? And I was like, dog, yes, love it. The dog will be, you know, the same breed as the dog in Cowboy Bebop, or, you know, like, and that'll be a fun
Corgi, baby.
Yeah, corgi. And I remember having been at a anime convention when I was a teenager, and the creator of Cowboy Bebop being there, and him saying that he put a corgi in because it was his friend's dog, and how his whole team was kind of annoyed because corgis are really difficult to animate because they don't move like other dogs.
Right.
And so they had to like study how corgis move. And I thought, well, we don't have to make this one move, so that'll be okay. So we put a corgi in there. And then it was like, I don't know, a mashed potato, like sentient mashed potatoes with sporks for arms. And like those things came out of the like, just making a list of everything about KFC and what could we do with it, you know, and stuff like that. And then there's a full-on cooking stadium that is just right out of Iron Chef. It's just like, give me one of those. And we're going to put that in the school. And there's going to be a school dance and stuff like, you know, it was just like, you just start riffing. And then next thing you know, you have like too many ideas, and then you get to put them all together. So
you were kind of talking about like pitching there. You were kind of, you would pitch this story idea, and you being in development, I'm sure a lot of our audience makes their own cartoons and has to pitch or are interested in pitching. Do you have any suggestions for how to do a good pitch, or what are some? Yeah,
absolutely. And that kind of wraps up all the jobs I've done. Because after I had done those things at PSYOP, Titmouse reached out to me and was like, we need someone to run our development. It's a lot of pitching and talking about pitches. And I was like, great, I love that. That's kind of like what I do. And so I showed them pitches that I've done and pitched them a project. And they were like, okay, this will make sense. You can come over here now. So pitching is, it's like layered storytelling, right? Like, so you're pitching a story. Your pitch itself kind of needs to be a story. And you need to think about the experience of sitting through that pitch and being entertained and excited about it, and making sure that nothing's boring. You know, that's kind of like, sounds basic, but when you want to get a lot of ideas across, it can be more difficult than it sounds. And you want to really layer all of your information in a way that really is additive, right? It adds up, it builds like a good story, it heightens, and there's twists and turns, and you end up like feeling like you went on a little ride that was really exciting to go on. I think another kind of like meta overhead piece of pitch advice is to really hone in on what's the thing that makes your thing special or unique or interesting, and that you're really good at, and is why someone would want to work with you, right? And so is it like, well, this has amazing character designs, so I need to really make sure that part of the pitch comes across as like, this is different or better, good, or worth existing because I bring something really unique and exciting to this. Or like, well, my thing has this musical component, and so therefore, you know, I want to make sure that like that really comes across in the way that I pitch this, and it's not just like give an equal weight to everything else. Be different, be special, and hone in on what that special different thing is, and make sure that everybody knows that this is the only way they're going to get that is through you and through this project.
very cool.
That's good advice. That's great advice. to hear more about DD&D.
Sure.
That was so much fun. I know you guys. It's coming to stores now, right?
Yes. The boat shows up like any day now with all the games on it, and we are shipping them out as soon as we can to our backers. And then once that has happened, I think you can pre-buy the game right now on our website, titmousestuff.com. But once the backers are out, we'll start shipping everything else, right? First come, first serve. But yeah, it's done. It's coming very soon. It's a fantasy role drinking game where you get to, create a character and then roll dice, fight monsters, and drink. That's the pitch. It's pretty simple, but it's filled with a lot of weird details and silly ideas and texture that hopefully elevates that experience into this like kind of unique situation that you get to have with your friends.
Yeah, we got a chance to play it with you, and it was super fun. I ordered after that. I ordered the deluxe version. Is there a difference between?
Thank you for your business.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between what we did or the regular version and the deluxe version, or?
Yeah. So the regular version is everything you need to play the game. The deluxe version adds some cool like side merch, and it also adds these pre-rolls. Pre-rolled characters. So in just a fun coincidence that in Smoking Joints you do some rolling, and in Dungeons and Dragons or D&D like games you do some rolling. And so the pre-rolls it's going to be the stack of characters that all have an original portrait drawn by one of the great artists who contributed, like a Christy Crocus, or Penn Ward, who created Adventure Time, or other independent artists that you may not be as familiar with. One who
Sean
Glaze,
right?
Enjoy this dude named Craig Gleason. Yes, Sean Glaze, who's a past guest. This dude named Craig Gleason, who has this Instagram account called the Bad Guys Club, or a little brand, I guess, called the Bad Guys Club. Cool, a lot of cool different artists. And so you'll have this portrait, and then you'll turn it over, and the character will be pre-built. They'll have a unique name. They'll have unique abilities that don't exist in the base game. They'll have unique items, and there's a bunch of them that come with the deluxe edition. That's the big difference of the two editions.
Very cool.
You can obviously create characters to your heart's content of your own, and you can make up all the items and powers that you want. But the deluxe has all that unique art in it as well.
So you and Chris P from Titmouse are the creators of this game, right? So what I would love to hear how this initially came about. Were you guys playing D&D and thought you weren't drunk enough, or how did that go?
So the story actually makes a lot of sense in a very Titmouse way. Titmouse is, as I mentioned, a pretty big animation studio. And so we do that thing that like big companies sometimes do, which is you send out like Christmas gifts to like friends and family of the studio. And because Titmouse is Titmouse, and they're not paying us to send gifts out, they're paying us to make cartoons. The gifts kind of never really got there on time for Christmas, right? Our Christmas presents started arriving in January, and then they started arriving in February, and then they started arriving in, who knows, March, maybe even April. And so at some point, someone had the idea of like, if we're not going to deliver these things until April, why don't we make them April themed, in that we make them all 420 gifts? And we just we ditch Christmas and we just go all in on 420. And so for years, Chris has been shipping 420 gifts. A Titmouse branded flask for boozing, a Titmouse branded pipe, a dugout pipe, a Titmouse branded wake and bake mug, a mug that also has a bowl that you can smoke weed out of and then put coffee in at the same time. All these weird things. And then he was like, it'd be really cool to make a drinking and smoking game so that people can use all the gifts that we've already given them over the years to play the game. And Chris is a huge fan of Dungeons and Dragons and grew up with it. And those classic Dungeons and Dragons box sets would come with a Dungeon Master's screen. And it's just this 3-panel piece of thin cardboard with usually art on one side and then a bunch of tables and rules on the other side. And so Chris was like, I want to send one of those. I've already decided the piece of art. can you help me like make a game to put on the 3 panels? And he had
Kind
been
of a big
to,
ask, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an ask. Well, he had been he helped. He had been to a bar, a D&D themed bar, where you like they have like a shot menu or a drink menu that you roll a d20 and like use your result to order a drink. And so he was like, well, maybe we do just like a cool menu or something that, you know, is fed by dice rolls with this d20. And I was like, I think I've made some games. I'm a person who likes to make a game and build a system. And I play tabletop RPGs and I play a lot of video games. And so I understand at a base level that like the rock, paper, scissors, that is kind of all of gaming, right? Almost everything is like rock, paper, scissors. So like I can make a game that will be small enough to fit in these 3 panels with some spot art and also feel fun enough that you could like actually sit down and play it. And so we started riffing ideas and I started pitching ideas at Chris and he would come back with more ideas and it just grew into something bigger. And so we did it as this 3-panel thing, but then he was like, okay, well I could get another piece of art. We could do 2 3 panels that ship together. So now it's got 6 panels. And it's like, okay, so now we're going bigger. And so we took that like, okay, well, it's a D20. Maybe instead of every number being a drink, every number is a monster. And so this is how we'll generate foes. You roll the D20, it lands on a 6. You look at the screen, you find 6, and that's the monster that shows up, right? And so at some point, Chris was like, you know, I actually like D12s better than D20s. So then I rebuilt it around the 12. It's his favorite number. It's one of those weird things you learn about a person. You're like, okay, this is a guy who has a favorite number, and it's 12. He draws a lot of D12s. There's a piece of art associated with the game, which is a Titmouse bird sitting on a D12. That's Chris's art.
Cool.
So I just adapted it into 12. I learned some simple mathematics about, you know, odds. And we built the game. And then we just started playing and testing and we reached out to other people in the studio and other creative people for ideas and silly puns and silly monster names. And we just went for it.
Well, it was a lot of fun. So I'm
I'm
looking
glad you
forward
guys
to
had
playing.
fun. It was nice to watch you guys play it in the wild with the real pieces. You guys were the first people to play it with the real pieces.
Oh, nice.
Really? Oh,
Ever.
nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
we had
pretty
literally
badass.
picked those boxes up at the convention and we picked up like 4 copies, like proofs to have and to maybe hand out to a couple like people as gifts. The, you know, super VIP, just friends. And so we played it a bunch with homemade pieces, right? Printouts that we cut up and mocked up together. But that was the first time somebody had held like the pieces from the factory and set them on the table and rolled dice and drank beer.
Yeah. I
Nice.
think one of the funnest parts about, I mean, obviously the beer drinking and having fun with friends is fun, but then also just being able to pick up all those cards and look at all the artwork. It was super cool to look at, and it was super fun to play.
Yeah, there's a ton of art in it. It's, you know, Chris, he really wanted, going back to that original screen, he was like, look, there are some people who we're going to mail this thing to, and they're going to look at it and they're going to like glaze over looking at rules for a game. But then they can like take this cool piece of art and they can like just tack it to the wall.
Right.
And they'll be like, this is a cool piece of art. And so that informs the whole game, right? It's like at any given moment, if you're like, my eyes are glazing over, this is like, what are we doing here? Well, there's cool pictures. You
Right.
know? And there's always cool pictures.
So I want to close this out, unless you got a question.
No,
Fred?
No.
So I want to close this out with, we always kind of close it out with the same question. We're wondering what you are basically soaking up right now. I kind of want to extend this question a little. It's usually what you're inspired by. And that's, I want to say more than media. Is there, you have a job where you have to take in a lot of pitches, I'm sure daily. You got to, staying creative is a muscle just like any. So I'd imagine So you might not want to be doing something creative in your off time. So you tell me, what are you inspired by?
Sure. So I'm definitely always watching cartoons because I feel like it's not only a part of my job, but it is something I love. So I'll use this as a shameless plug because I just watched it. Haunted Hotel, a new show that came out of Titmouse. It's on Netflix right now. And so it was really nice to see something hit the air. You know, TV shows take so long to make that you know, that moment where you're pitching a show. And so that's a show that Netflix brought to us, and we got to pitch art styles on and art ideas. And that was so invigorating. And then you go away and it's like 2 years go by before a show comes out. So that was it's really cool that came out. And I got to watch that. And I watch a lot of, like, when it comes to like creative, inspiring stuff, my wife had never watched it, so I took that as an excuse to pick up The Sopranos again from the beginning.
Oh yeah,
I love
nice.
The Sopranos.
Nice.
So I'm watching that again right now. From the beginning, just such good characters. Just like, you know, the premise of that show, you know, like before I pressed play on it, my wife looked at the screen and it was Hulu and it had like one sentence, and the sentence said something like, "My boss, Tony Soprano, goes to therapy." And she was like, "Wait, is that what this show is about? About a mob boss who goes to therapy?" And I was like, I don't know that anyone like outside of Hulu would describe it as that.
Yeah, but it basically kind of is.
Like,
you know?
but it is. I mean, that's like kind of the inciting like incident of the whole show is like he faints and he goes to therapy, and then it's really about like the day-to-day life of a Jersey mob, but like it's really about this guy going through a crisis, and it's just so character driven, and that's what really excites me about shows and movies is like really, really good characters. I always like say to people, you know, when somebody shows you a tattoo of the thing that they like, it's generally a character, right? It's not like a premise, you know? Like,
Yeah.
you can show someone your sick Frankenstein's monster tattoo, right? And it's like, maybe it's a particular version of Frankenstein's monster, or maybe it's, you know, an original, but it's not like a tattoo of the process of gathering body parts to stitch together to electrify and turn into a monster, right? It's Frankenstein's monster. It's like, there he is. And so the character is so huge. Not that the premise of that is not a fucking amazing premise, but like you don't get the premise tattooed, right? Sometimes you get something, maybe Star Wars, but some giant back mural of the Death Star and, you know, two suns and whatever. But so I love character stuff like that. And I listen to a lot of a podcast called Comedy Bang Bang. Comedy Bang Bang is a improvised talk show. It's been going on for well over a decade, and it is like my go-to. I love it so much. Every episode, the host who plays a version of himself in like a Carson or Letterman or Conan type character, he has generally like 3 or 4 guests. The first one is a real celebrity who's promoting something. It's like, oh, this person, they just put out a book. They're on their book tour, so they come on the podcast. And then every other guest is a improviser doing a character. Oh. And those characters can be very strange and very silly. And the guest knows that they're characters, but tries to deal with this situation. It became a TV show, also called Comedy Bang Bang. It was on IFC. It has like 100 episodes, but IFC has kind of lost the time. I think it's locked in the AMC streaming network. And you don't need it. The show's great, but Theater of the Mind, a podcast. I got a dog. I do a lot of walking my dog and laughing and listening to deranged characters on this particular podcast called Comedy Bang Bang. So
that's amazing.
Love it.
People,
good shit.
Yeah.
Good shit.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Alexei. We've really enjoyed this time hanging out with you. And if anyone else who has listened enjoyed listening to this, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a lot of fun interviews coming up, and we have some more original cartoons that you can watch if you want to watch those too. So thanks again, Alexei.
Thank you.
Take care.
We are the television.